Good morning. Today we're previewing our budget for the next biennium. But before we address our budget, I want to take this opportunity to reflect on where we stand today. On Election Day, Montanans and all Americans spoke loudly and clearly. 600,000 Montanan voters cast their ballots. And what did they say? They want conservative leadership. Leadership that recognizes that Montanans continue to face an affordability crisis. Leadership that is committed to the men and women of law enforcement. Leadership that supports students, parents, and teachers. Ultimately, Montanans said they want leadership that delivers results. Over the past 4 years, we've worked together with legislators to enact pro-jobs, pro-family, pro-business policies. And those policies are working. Wages in Montana over the last 4 years have grown at the second fastest rate in the United States. More Montanans are working now than ever before. We've had record job creation and business creation. With the legislature, we have delivered on our promises, and we have delivered results. And that's what Montanans voted for. For the first time in more than 125 years, Montanans elected Republicans to represent them in every seat we have in the U.S. Congress, in all statewide offices, and with a majority in both chambers of the state legislature. It's a historic moment. My proposition was and remains simple: to create more good-paying jobs, open the doors of greater opportunities for all Montanans, to achieve the American dream, and to protect the Montana way of life. It's a conservative vision, centered on family, our communities, and our way of life. Montanans responded resoundingly to that conservative vision. I'm grateful that Montanans have entrusted me and Lieutenant Governor Juris for 4 more years to continue delivering results for them. And that conservative vision is what has guided our budget that we are previewing today. It focuses on our families, our communities, and our way of life. I'm pleased to be joined today by Budget Director Ryan Osmundson, who leads the hardworking, dedicated, and innovative team at our budget office. I'm proud of our budget, the path to security and prosperity. The strong foundation of a prosperous society is made up of 3 pillars: economic freedom, safe communities, and strong families who have access to opportunities. Without those 3 pillars, the foundation of that prosperous society crumbles. Knowing the headwinds of high inflation from the Biden-Harris administration are still blowing, we're investing in building a stronger, more stable economy here in Montana. We got a head start over the last 4 years, but there's more work we must do to encourage job creation, support law enforcement, invest to make our schools better for students and teachers, and protect our way of life. Once again, our budget is balanced, fiscally responsible, and avoids cuts to essential services. Our budget will build a stronger future for Montana. To achieve a more prosperous future, I am proud of what we've been able to accomplish to lower taxes so far. Over the last 4 years, we've cut taxes for Montanans at every income level, reducing the income tax rate that most Montanans pay from 6.9% to 5.9%, substantially increasing the earned income tax credit to benefit lower income, hardworking Montanans, and eliminated the burden of the business equipment tax for more than 5,000 small businesses, farms, and ranches that fuel job creation. We can't and shouldn't rest on our laurels, especially with inflation from the Biden-Harris administration eating away at our paychecks, making it harder to make ends meet and creating a national affordability crisis. We should do what we can to help Montanans keep more of what they work so hard to earn and give them more certainty well into the future. Because ultimately, it's your money, not the government's. That's why my budget, this new budget, includes the largest income tax cut in state history. We propose reducing the income tax rate most Montanans pay from 5.9% to 4.9%. We propose expanding the earned income tax credit to help hardworking lower and middle income Montanans. Together, these proposals total more than $850 million in permanent tax relief for hardworking Montanans. A new record tax cut that benefits Montanans at every income tax level. We also propose to further reform the business equipment tax to provide relief to small business owners, family farmers, and ranchers by raising the exemption to $3 million per business. This reform will take nearly 700 additional Montana small businesses and ag producers off the business equipment tax rolls and better allow them to invest in their business to create more good-paying jobs. And to further help Montanans keep more of what they earn, we propose ending the 3% administrative fee on vehicle registrations, saving Montanans an additional $6 million per year. These tax cuts will let Montanans keep more of what they earn, help folks navigate the nationwide affordability crisis, and create a more prosperous future for our state and people. We, however, are not focused only on permanently reducing income taxes, providing tax relief to small businesses and ag producers, and ending unnecessary fees. We must also reduce the burden of property taxes. That's why we propose a homestead rate reduction for Montana homeowners for their primary residence and for Montana small business owners. This property tax savings proposal is one of the recommendations of the Property Tax Task Force that I established at the start of the year. I again want to thank the members of the task force, the stakeholders, tax experts, local leaders, and a bipartisan group of legislators for their thoughtful recommendations to deliver meaningful, permanent property tax relief. According to estimates, our homestead rate cut will lower the property tax for Montana homeowners by 15% and for small businesses by 18%. Our proposal is projected to directly reduce property taxes for more than 215,000 primary residences and more than 32,000 small businesses, as well as provide indirect relief to over 130,000 renters. Since I think we should deliver permanent property tax relief for Montanans in 2025, not in 2026 or 2027, but in 2025, getting this proposal across the finish line as quickly as possible is one of my top priorities in the upcoming legislative session. We need to get it done early. Admittedly, while our proposed reforms are directed to Montana residents for their primary homes, we need local governments to come on board to keep property taxes as low as possible. While many local jurisdictions are fiscally responsible, we need all local leaders to be fiscally responsible to make this work for Montanans. That means containing their spending and keeping Montana's property taxes as low as possible. But we cannot achieve long-term prosperity without safe communities. And at the foundation of a safer, stronger future is our commitment to making public safety a top priority. And our budget backs the blue. We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk to back the blue. Working with the Attorney General, we propose increasing pay for the men and women of the Montana Highway Patrol by $7 million. And that's why we're also ensuring that they have the tools they need to get the job done, investing more than $1 million for equipment for MHP. And we're investing in resources to hold criminals accountable and ensure they receive justice, including more prosecutors at the Montana Department of Justice, DNA forensic scientists at Department of Justice, more judges to address the growing caseload, and greater resources to support victims of crimes. Our budget provides $6.5 million for our correction officers in secure facilities, funding a pay increase for them, and invests in their training and resources. And while we continue to crack down on criminals peddling dangerous drugs like fentanyl into our communities, we're also focused on expanding access to treatment and recovery for those struggling with addiction. We started improving access to treatment and recovery in my first year in office, establishing the Heart Fund. To build on that success and other similar ones, our budget provides $8 million of additional resources for communities to address the opioid crisis. Our budget also invests nearly $2 million in drug treatment courts across the state that have proven to be a life-changing resource for our communities. Providing law enforcement with the tools they need to get their job done, however, doesn't maximize public safety if we can't put criminals away. The fact is, too many criminals who ought to be at the state prison are filling up county jails. The fact is that there are thousands of unserved warrants because there's not enough jail space for criminals. For the safety of our communities, we must fix this. My budget proposes spending $150 million in one-time only funding to expand the state prison, building 2 new pods that will add approximately 500 additional beds. In 2023, legislators and I established a commission to address fundamental systematic issues in our state's behavioral health system. We provided $300 million in the last session, really a generational investment to transform and modernize our behavioral health and developmental disability systems. The members of the commission, including a bipartisan group of legislators, delivered, and we identified what we need to do to prepare for the future. In 2025, we must prepare for the future of our long neglected correctional systems, and I know there are many legislators that agree. That's why we have budgeted $250 million in this budget in one-time only funding to develop and execute a long-term plan to keep our communities safe and keep criminals off the street. While we back the blue, we must also make a commitment to the people of Montana that we will fix our corrections system and improve public safety. Backing the blue requires making investments to close any revolving doors that remain. With safer streets, our communities can prosper, flourish, and have a brighter, stronger future. To fully realize that, we must protect record funding for K-12 public education and put the best interests of our students, teachers, and parents at the top of the list. Ultimately, we must ensure students and parents have access to the best education possible. That includes ensuring our teachers are paid for their work, because a worker is due their wages. And teaching is one of the most noble and rewarding professions there is. As a son and a father of teachers, I know that personally. In 2021, we worked with legislators to enact the TEACH Act to boost starting teacher pay. In 2023, we worked together to build on that success by expanding funding for the TEACH Act. In 2025, I propose we go further to support our teachers. Our proposed budget invests more than $100 million to boost teacher pay, and with a focus on educators who are starting out their careers in our classrooms. In our pro-student, pro-parent, pro-teacher education agenda, we're increasing educational opportunities for Montana students as well. modernizing education beyond traditional geographical barriers by strengthening the Montana Digital Academy. Our budget also empowers more students by expanding our successful measures to build a stronger and more highly skilled workforce through STEM education, career and technical education, and greater public-private partnerships. We increase career and technical education in the classroom to boost the skills of our next generation of workers to meet the needs of employers right now and well into the future. Our budget also increases funding for the popular Big Sky Scholarships program to $6 million. The program provides lower and middle income families with scholarships to access educational opportunities that best meet the needs of their children. Regardless of the public school our children attend, they should be focused on learning when they're in the classroom. Too often, however, social media, notifications, and content tear away at their attention. Ultimately, students in our classrooms should be focused on their teachers, not on TikTok or Instagram. As I've met with school administrators, teachers, and parents throughout the state, I've heard success stories about how plans for cell phone-free schools are working. To that end, our budget dedicates $1 million in one-time only funding to create incentives for school districts to get rid of distractions in the classroom and to adopt cell phone-free policies. Finally, I've met with administrators, educators, and parents throughout the state who are concerned about the conditions of our schools. Some have leaky roofs, others have boilers or HVAC systems that either don't work or are about to fail. The list of major maintenance projects goes on, and they're particularly pronounced in our rural communities. Our budget proposes a one-time only $81 million investment in the School Facilities Trust to help local school districts with deferred maintenance and to fill this fund. A public school system designed for effective teaching and learning is just one of the keys to developing a stronger, brighter future here in Montana. But we all know housing is fundamental to the American dream. And to help all Montanans have access to greater opportunities to achieve the American dream, we must continue our efforts to boost the supply of housing to rein in escalating costs of home ownership and renting. I'm proud of what we've accomplished with legislators to enact pro-housing reforms. I've heard from other governors, both Republicans and Democrats, asking how they can do what we've done here in Montana. The truth is, they need a bipartisan group of legislators who are willing to lead on pro-housing reforms. In Montana, we are fortunate to have such a strong pro-housing movement amongst our legislators. To keep our momentum going on housing, our budget proposes spending nearly $1 million to expedite the review of subdivisions, speeding up the construction of affordable, attainable housing. A brighter future for Montana, however, also requires a safe, reliable, and modern infrastructure. Recognizing there are bridges that are in need of repair, we are investing an additional $10 million a year towards bridges, fixing 500 of them over the next 5 years. Our budget proposes $3.5 million to get staff, including inspectors and engineers, on board to get the job done. But our state faces other infrastructure projects that, if we continue to let them go unaddressed, propose substantial disaster risk. Our budget proposes a one-time only funding of $100 million for a local disaster resiliency fund. The fund will support state and local projects that reduce or eliminate long-term risks to people and property from future disaster, like aging levees and canals that might fail, endangering our communities. With the proceeds from the fund, we can leverage the state dollars with up to a 9-to-1 federal match. So this is a good investment. Finally, our budget proposes to invest $300 million over the biennium in one-time only funding to protect our state pensions against downturns that could expose taxpayers. Our state workers, teachers, and firefighters work hard throughout their careers and should be secure in the knowledge that their retirement will be there for them. That commitment we must keep. It's also critical that Montanans have confidence that they won't be on the hook for this pension funding if there isn't enough money there. Our budget prioritizes the health and well-being of our communities, and most importantly, the next generation of Montanans by spurring job creation, boosting education, and opening the door of greater opportunity for more hardworking Montanans. There's a lot to our path to security and prosperity budget. It's a conservative budget. It ensures hardworking Montanans keep more of what they earn. It makes historic investments to back the blue and enhance public safety. It makes historic investments to keep criminals off the streets. It fixes our bridges, increases our housing supply, and grows Montanans' access to affordable, attainable housing. It spurs job creation. It boosts education, supporting students, parents, and educators in the classroom. It does all this while being fiscally responsible. Our budget is balanced. Our budget holds the line on spending, keeping the state spending growth well below inflation. Let me repeat that again. Our budget keeps spending growth well below inflation. Our budget has a strong ending fund balance to protect against economic and financial uncertainty. Our budget avoids cuts in essential services. This is our path to security and prosperity. But nothing in our path to security and prosperity should be a surprise. Working with the legislators in 2021 and 2023, we enacted conservative budgets that delivered results, providing permanent tax relief, making smart investments, keeping spending growth under inflation, and producing a surplus. And let me be clear, we haven't gotten here alone. Legislators have been key to enacting a conservative budget. And I look forward again working with them here in 2025 to succeed again, to deliver results for the people of Montana. We'll continue to work together to bring the American dream into greater reach for all Montanans. With what we've been able to achieve together so far, Montana can and should be a model for our sometimes fractured nation. We live in an inspiring place, full of good people who work hard every day. I'm filled with great optimism. Optimism for our state, optimism for our people, and optimism for our future. With that, I'd be happy to take a few questions. Yes?
Hi, Governor. I am wondering, first, if you might be able to give us like a rough estimate, round number of what the budget is spending, just like a total. And then if there are any areas you could highlight where we might see reductions in the budget, that would also be helpful.
Okay. The details on the budget will be available on Friday, so it'll actually be filed. Then you can go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Ryan, I don't know if you want to comment on some of the top-line numbers.
Yeah, I'd have to go off the top of my head here, so I apologize. When we're talking House Bill 2, that's obviously general fund, state special revenue, and federal. And off the top of my head, I want to say we're about $6 billion a year when you're including all of those. So,
got it.
Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
You mentioned building out two new sections of the state prison. Would that be the 256 bed units that they've talked about in the interim? And are you guys considering funding a new women's prison at all in this budget?
yeah. So, yeah, to answer that question, we have taken some of the recommendations from that interim committee, and that's where this is coming from as they work with the department and consultants. One of the reasons we did put the additional $250 million was to contemplate what is next going forward. And there's many ideas out there for that, and we want some of the legislative input as we develop that.
Other questions?
You have Jonathan there in the back.
Oh, hi, John. You're behind the light. I couldn't see you. Yeah.
Governor, in the last budget, you guys put a lot of emphasis on one-time only spending because you thought that would be better considered what you saw as maybe a sugar high of federal spending and things like that. Is this budget more permanent spending rather than one-time only spending compared to last session?
Okay, that's a good question, Jonathan. It's a mix. We ended up having the $850 million income tax reduction. We use structural money, that is recurring revenues, to fund that. We figured if we were over collecting, we needed to give it back to the people of Montana. Many of the capital projects we listed, the prison and others, we're using one-time funding to do that. Do we have any questions online?
Mara online.
Yeah, hi Mara.
Hey there, Governor. Just wondering if this budget includes a proposal for renewing Medicaid expansion.
Yes, it's in the present law section. It would renew it. It's important we work with the legislature to get some work requirements added to that, but it's fully funded in the budget.
Thank you.
We also have Eric online.
Okay. Eric?
Hey, apologies for not being there in person. I heard you mention increasing pay for some employee groups in state government. I was wondering, where are we at with the state employee pay plan running the next session?
Yeah, so we did work with the union. We've negotiated a pay package. I think it's publicly available at this point. We settled on $1 an hour or 2.5% per year over the biennium. That was agreed to by the union and by the administration, and that's built into this budget.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Governor. Are there any conservation or public lands priorities in this budget that you can point out?
Well, we're going to continue to fund Habitat Montana with the recurring. We have the funding in the budget here to continue to pursue the conservation efforts that we've been doing. And just recently, these new conservation leases on 50,000 acres in eastern Montana. I just learned from FWP today we have a new round of those coming in, so stay tuned.
Thanks.
Yes.
So obviously when you cut taxes, since we don't have a sales tax, other people's taxes have to go up. Who's going to see that increase, albeit maybe unfortunately, but where are those increases going to be seen?
Well, it's not quite true. On property taxes, it is true. If you lower somebody's taxes, somebody else has to go up. Under this homestead rate reduction, Montanans in their primary residence will pay less, about 15% less. So where does that burden fall? It falls on out-of-staters with second homes here. They're going to see their property taxes go up. It basically shifts the burden. Now, on the income tax reduction, the way that's being paid for is because we've held the line on new spending, we've funded essential services, but we haven't grown the size of government faster than inflation, and our economy's been growing, we have more structural money. If this is our spending curve, this is our revenue curve, this difference is what we're using to buy down the rates. Okay, so it's really different for property taxes versus income taxes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Okay. Yes.
I know Revenue Committee will meet next week, I believe. I'm wondering if this budget adopts a revenue estimate and if you have an idea of where it falls with what legislators are looking at.
I don't know exactly where LFD is going to come down on the revenue estimate, but we've been working with the legislative branch as well. So I would say we're fairly close. I hope that answers your question.
Sure. You don't have a general number? I know it's probably not right.
Well, as the governor said, we'll have more details on Friday. That's technically when we'll actually give you all the numbers, the balance sheets, and those type of things. So.
Yes, Jonathan.
The income tax rates you guys have adjusted and reduced now a couple of times. How much more do you think they can be brought down? I mean, is this something that is only going to be the first step of more continuing, or what do you think?
Well, when I came into office, we had the highest income tax rate in the Rocky Mountain region at 6.9%. And I made a commitment. I think we're better off when people get to keep more of their hard-earned dollars. We have to continue to fund essential services, which we've done. I also believe football games are won with 3 to 5 yard plays. We've run a couple that allowed us to go from 6.9 to 5.9 with the economic boost that we've seen through the job creation that we've had in the state. We have enough to reduce it another full percentage point, and that's what we're proposing here. That will be 0.5% 1 year of the biennium, another 0.5% in the second year, and we'll have to see where the budget ends up. I think letting people keep the fruits of their labor is always a good thing. Yes.
Is there anything else the budget contemplates beyond the homestead, Comstead stuff, and then some of the zoning streamlining stuff in order to build more housing stock, especially in some of the more quickly growing places here?
Yeah, so the housing, the property tax task force made 12 recommendations. We're going to be pursuing most of those. The homestead rate reduction is the biggest lever we have in that package. But you'll be seeing reforms in those other areas. And many of the things we did on housing affordability through the housing task force, we're still getting benefit from. So when we changed the apprenticeship ratios in 2021, we had more apprenticeships in the building trades created in 2022 than the prior 3 years combined. But it takes 4 years to get through in a carpentry or an electrical or a plumbing apprenticeship. So we haven't seen the full benefit of more carpenters and plumbers building houses yet. So that will come over this next couple of years. So, and we have a second chapter in the housing task force that we can pursue in this legislature as well. We'll make it the last question.
Okay, I know details are coming on Friday, but I'm wondering if there's anything for childcare in this budget.
This budget continues to fund the Best Beginnings. In the last legislative session, we proposed a child tax credit. Thought that was a good idea. Unfortunately, the Democrats killed it in the legislature. So if they have a better idea, they should introduce it, and we'll consider it when it gets to my desk. Thank you, everybody. Oh, we do? Okay, Eric?
Oh, sorry, thanks for making time for me. I had a question about the education funding, the money to increase teacher pay. Why work that through? It sounds like something kind of similar to the Teach Act instead of simply increase the per student rates that are built into the budget.
Yeah, sure. Eric, one of the things we've been watching over the interim is some of the conversations that have been going on in the legislature about how we can increase teacher pay. And we understood that that was going to be a very hot topic, and so we proposed roughly a very similar proposal, and we've been working with the education groups and with the legislature to actually fund that. So,
Yeah, and more simply, I would just say this proposal makes sure as the money gets to the classroom, it doesn't go to administration, which I think is important. Thank you, everybody. We'll get you the rest of the details on Friday.